Hello soulmates, and welcome to class. We're going to draft cut and sew frock dress. So it's going to be a short free gown. This is the Ankara material we'll be using. Lace material I got to do the embellishment. Here is my zipper and my matching thread. Here is the measurement that is required to draft this basic block. Down length is 30, shoulder 10.5, chest 25, waist measurement 23, and the half length is 11.5. Okay, for this basic block, I've gone ahead to measure our half length 11.5, and I've marked it down. Next thing I did here was to divide my chest circumference 25 divided by 2, and I added 1 inch for ease. I divided the block into 2, so now we have a front pattern and the back pattern. So the next thing is for me to impute our neck depth. Do that to divide our chest circumference by 12, and then we mark it down. I'll curve it out now, and I'll do same for the back. So next I'll measure my shoulder measurement 10.5 divided by 2. I will mark it here. So still on the shoulder measurement, I'll measure 1 inch from here to get my shoulder slope, and for the back I'll measure 0.5 inch, and I'll connect it to my neckline. Next I'll divide my chest circumference by 4. 25 divided by 4 is 6.25, minus 1 will give me 5.25, and I'll come right here at my shoulder slope and I'll measure 5.25. I'll mark it down. Next I'll go to the apex and measure it, and then I'll mark it across. So I'll come here and I'll also mark 6.25, and I'll rule a line. Next I will impute my shoulder measurements on this line, because this line has now become my chest line, while this line is my waistline, and this point is the half length. Okay, so I'll measure my shoulder measurement and mark it on my chest line. I'll do the same thing for the back. And I'll use a dotted line to connect it. I'm connecting from my shoulder slope to this point. Next, I will divide this dotted line at the back. I'll divide it by 2. I'll bring it forward to the front. Mark it. Next, for the front, I'll come in by half an inch. And for the back, I'll go in by 1/4 an inch. I'll connect my shoulder slope to this point. And I'll do same for the back. The next thing I'll do here is to divide my chest circumference by 4, which will give me 6.25, and I'll measure it across this line and mark it down. And I'll equally do same for the back. The next thing I'll do is to divide my waist measurements, which is 23 divided by 4, and that will give me 5.75. And on my waistline, I'll measure 5.75. I'll also impute that measurement at the back, and then I'll connect this point. to this point. I'll connect this point to this point. But before I do that, I'm going to curve out my armhole. How do I do that? I'm going to use my curve and curve out this point to this point, and that's my armhole curve. So now I'm going to connect this point to the waistline. Now the next thing, I'm going to alter the back block so as to redraft my neckline. So I actually wanted this back to have a deep opening. Okay, so coming from my neckline here, I'll measure to my desired length, connect from this place to that point with a curve. So next thing, I'll add my zip allowance from this point. That's going to serve as my zip allowance, and I'll measure 1 inch. Okay, so this becomes my back neck. Okay, and this is my zipper. So next thing to do now is to label my basic block. So here is the center front CF. Here is my center front CF, side front, side back, center back, my zipper. So next thing, I'll cut it out. And here we have our basic bodice block. This is the front and this is the back. So the next thing now, we transfer to fabric, add the allowances and cut out. So soulmates, I've gone ahead to cut out our fabric. Okay, this is the front pattern, and I've added seam allowances, half-inch seam allowances, and for the side I added 1.5 inches for the side allowance. Okay, and I cut out this material for the lining. So you can use any fabric of your choice. I decided to use doll face because I like how, smooth it is, and it's children's wear, so they need to be very, very comfortable with it. And to embellish the front of this frock dress, I cut out this lace to the back pattern. I've added seam allowances all through. This is the lining material I'm going to use for the back. This is the trimmings I'm cutting out from the lace that I'm going to use and do frills for the sleeve. Okay, so I'm still cutting it out. Maybe when I start sewing it, we'll see how to go about this. Then for the down part of this dress, I've gone ahead to cut out my fabric so that I can be able to do gathers and knits. What I did was to multiply the waist circumference times 5, and that is how much I want to gather. And then the full length of this gown is 30. I minus half length from the full length. 30 minus 11.5 to give us 18.5, and I added 1 inch allowance. So mates, I'll see you on the sewing machine. So mates, for the down parts of our gown, I use my needle and thread to do the gathers, you can see. So for the lower parts, I want to attach a frill to it, and that is what I'm actually doing here. I've started preparing the lower part I hope you can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to hem it. So I'm just folding the fabric inside. I'm almost done with this. And then we'll start joining our upper bodice to it. Okay, so mates, I'm done. Okay, so mates, so it's time for us to attach our frills. Let me show you what I've been doing. It's 3 inches. What I did is to fold the hem on both sides. If you have a serger, you can use it and serge both sides, and then you just sew it on it. Use my hand needle to gather it up like this. It's easier for me that way. Then as I'm sewing it, I'll be controlling the fullness. On my hem part like this, I'm going to place it on the 1/2 inch that I've sewn already. Just at this hem part, I'll place it like so, and then I'll sew it down. Remember I said you have to be controlling these gathers as you are sewing. It properly, you hold it down like so, and then you sew. Make sure you don't rush these parts. Just take your time. Children's clothes are actually not difficult, but it needs a lot of attention. Make sure it does not fold in. Keep pushing it out. So mates, we are gradually coming to the end of it. Okay, and here is what we've done. Can you see? It's looking beautiful already. So mates, it's time for us to join our upper bodice. So I'm going to keep my patterns aside. Now start from the front. Look what I've done here. I attached the lace material I showed you. I attach it on the upper part of this gown like this. Okay, so I think the next thing to do is for us to join the shoulders, fabric to fabric. And I'm going to sew it down on 1/2 inch, fabric to fabric. Make sure they matches up. And if you draft your pattern very well and mark your allowances very well, they are sure to match up. So right now, I'll quickly go and open up my seam like so and iron it so it can lay flat. So this is so mates, I've ironed it and you can see it's laying so flat. So the next thing to do now is to attach our sleeve. By this time, if you have a sleeve, this is the right time to attach it before you cover it up with the lining. So from the lace material I showed you, I cut out these trimmings from it, and that's what I want to use for my frock sleeve. So what I did was to do a little gathers to it and pulled it together like this. Okay, so now to attach it, I'm going to turn it like this. I don't intend for the sleeve to get to the armhole side. I'm going to stop somewhere here. So by the time you secure it and it matches up to where you want it to stop, then you sew it down. I'm arranging it down as I sew. Okay, so mates, I've finished attaching it. So the next thing I'll do is to lay my lining right side facing right side, and then I'm going to sew the neck on 1/2 inch and sew the armhole on 1/2 inch. Because of the zip allowance, I'm not going to start. I'm just going to start from my notch part. I'm not going Okay, once you're done, please remember to notch, notch, but don't cut through your same line. And then we'll sew our armhole area. We are not going to start sewing from this point. Remember, we are after inseam perfect finish. The allowances we use on the side is 1.5 inch, so you have to mark that out and then you start sewing. Sew on half inch. Make sure that everything is actually aligned. Always check to be sure. Done. I'm going to notch my armhole areas, and then I'll turn this over. And then I'll go and give it a good press. Turn it over now. And to do that, simply push in this back part from this shoulder part, push it out. Push this one out from here. You can see what I'm doing. It's not difficult, you can do it. Put your hand in. If you have a loop turner, you can use it, but I don't think I need one now because it's free. That's it. And I'll do same for this part. Can you see that? So I'll go ahead now and iron it properly, and I'll show you. So mates, I've ironed it out. So the next thing to do now, you can see how flat it lays. So the next thing to do now is to quickly join the sides of this top. And to do that, I'm going to hold the right side facing the right side like this, and then the lining parts the same way. Okay, remember the allowances I use for the side is 1.5, so that makes it easy for me. I'll quickly mark out 1.5 and I'll sew it. You see what I'm doing? Then you mark out your 1.5. I'm done joining it, so mates. I'll go ahead now and iron it up so that I can open all the seams. Open it up like this so it can lay flat. So the next thing to do now is to match it up like so that I can notch the center point, both the main fabric and the lining. Not, they are actually detached. I'll join the lining part and I'll join the main fabric to it. And then we'll fix our zipper, and that will be all. For the lining, I attached a little hard net to it to give the fabric a little structure. I didn't do much. So I'm joining it now. So mates, this is the down part of it, and this is the upper part. I've matched up everything, so I'm going to sew it down now. Try as much as you can to control the fullness. This is gathers. If you don't do it properly, it will tend to gather more at a particular side. So that's the more reason why you have to support it by putting your hand under and keep adjusting as you sew. It's not something that you're going to rush. And when you come to this seam, when you come to this area, this side area, you have to bend it over. I hope you can see what I'm doing. Bend it over like a triangular form. Tuck it in like this, and tuck this other side in like this, and then you sew on it. Okay, we are done with the upper borders. So the next thing Next thing is to join the lining as I have done in this other one. I'll pick, we are still sewing on 1/2 inch allowance. We'll give attention to it too, arrange it properly, push out where necessary, adjust where necessary, and then we'll sew. Remember to tuck in these parts like I said. Okay, we are done now. Notch if you can, and trim up where necessary. This is what the inside looks like. You can see how neat it is. Everything has disappeared inside. And look at the front. You see that. So to attach our zipper, I would like to measure 6 inches from this waistline down, 6 inches or 7 inches, and mark it. Is to sew it down from this other part will now be for the fixing of our zipper. So I'll do that right now, and then we'll continue. So having joined the down part, next I'll place my zipper, the right side of my zipper facing the right side of my fabric, like so. Remember the allowance. At this point, if you have a zipper foot, you can change it now. And when you get to that point where we join back stitch, we push the zip inside so we can sew this other side. So we'll turn it like so. Still the same thing, we are sewing on 1 inch allowance, so remember to back stitch. Okay, so the next thing is to sew it in with our lining. Okay, so mates, we have come to the end of our class. This is what we'll be making. This is our frock dress, but I hope you like the finished look. And this is the back. All right, thank you. This is the end of our class. Thank you, and see you in our next class. Bye-bye.